When people think of my work over the years, more often than not, they think about, well, Gary's that guy on television or radio that shares information about how to live a healthier life. But there was an evolution to this, because when I first came to New York, I didn't know anything about nutrition. I had no formal education in it, but I did have a knowledge of how to survive in New York on a limited budget. I wrote a little small book, Surviving and Settling in New York on a Shoestring. It got some good reviews, so I was invited on to some television programs, Joe Franklin, and from Joe Franklin I was invited on to Mike Douglas. Then a publisher called. She said, my husband and I are both into good nutrition. We were following the work for decades of Bernard McFadden. He was a 19-teens, 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s pioneer in the health field. He was one of the biggest publishers behind William Randolph Hearst in America. And they say, we think you could be the new Bernard McFadden. I said, well, I'm sorry, but I have no background. I don't have the knowledge. Well, you said you're a vegan on the interview and that you exercise and you're healthy and you've never smoked or drank or taken drugs. I said, that's correct. So I went into their offices and I signed a contract. And it was to do a book called The Complete Handbook on Nutrition. And for that, they were going to give me $500. And I wrote it. But in the process, I decided I need some more formal education. I went back and joined a dietetic school, completed my dietetics training and did my internship and became a registered dietitian. Then I would go into a Bachelor of Science in Clinical Nutrition at a fully accredited college. So I began my professional career by becoming better educated. But all the while, I read voracious amounts of material. And I wrote the book. Then I went out on tour, and it was a small tour. So instead of going on saying, come and, I'll give you a signed copy of the book, why should they care? Who was I and nobody? Instead, I talked about, would you like to know alternative approaches to arthritis and diabetes and pain and depression, insomnia? Suddenly, the bookstores were packed. Not only were they packed, that people bought out all the books. We only had 50 books, sold all of them. And so they extended my tour, and I began to get larger audiences and more media, larger audience, more media, until finally my last tour was in Minneapolis, Minnesota. It was a terrible day. There was a blizzard outside. We still managed to sell over 1,200 books. I was told by the actual bookkeeper, oh, we've shipped out over 1 million of your hardback books. And then I left that publishing company, got with some really major houses and really good editors. Cynthia Vartan at Delacorte Press was one of the big publishers. Did 7 straight bestsellers with them. I've had a very good career. I would go on to get my PhD in Human Nutrition Public Health Science, and I used all this in order to better understand what it was to counsel people. And I found that listening to what the person had to say, but not starting at the symptom, but going to what would be the underlying primary cause of their imbalances. Other people would just look at their symptoms. Oh, you've got some pain, take this, this, and this to get rid of the pain. Oh, your blood sugar is high, take this, this, and this. So I had a completely different approach. And because I was the biggest selling health author at the time, except for Del Davis in America, I was invited to all these get-togethers to where all the leaders of the health movement were. And it was at the New York Coliseum at 59th Broadway. So I watched them. There was not a young person in the audience. It was all gray-haired people. And I thought to myself, none of them look healthy. But then again, none of the presenters looked healthy, and none one talked about a holistic approach to health. They didn't talk about exercise, stress management, green time, valuing life, meaning in life, purpose life. Viktor Frankl's great insights and philosophy of living. You got to have something worth living for. So at the end of the day, I didn't even get out there on stage. But I told Clinton Miller I appreciated him inviting me, but I didn't see anything healthy in the health movement, so I wasn't going to be a part of it. And I haven't, not till this day. But I've helped a lot of people. I don't know the exact numbers, but if I were to guesstimate based on how many people I see on a daily basis and counsel, and how many people I've worked with in health support groups and clinical studies, 44 clinical studies, about 300 health support groups. One of those health support groups had 5,000 people. All told, I'm guessing well over 60,000 people. I finally realized that people didn't die only because of cancer, heart disease, or stroke, or diabetes. They died because of the limitations of their belief systems. Because whatever you believe in, that's what's going to determine your reality. So even when something is not in your best interest, you'll frequently go ahead and imbibe in it. And even when something could save you, if it meant giving up your comforts, you might end up being that person who makes the wrong choice. Thank you all for listening and watching.